I can reveal today that sources close to Prince William think there is at least now some sort of possibility that he could have to take the throne while his father remains alive. The chances of a terminally ill and cancer-stricken King Charles being forced to abdicate over the allegedly criminal actions of his brother ex-Prince Andrew have just significantly increased today. But the Royal Rota and the mainstream media will not discuss the reality of this growing major crisis for the British royal family, potentially an existential crisis for King Charles III. Because I can reveal today that sources close to Prince William think there is at least now some sort of possibility that he could have to take the throne while his father remains alive, given the growing disaster around the criminal probe into the now disgraced Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. At 6 a.m. this morning, the King's worst nightmare came true, as police investigating misconduct claims against the former Duke in connection to Jeffrey Epstein, those claims saw him arrested at Sandringham in February, remember, announced that the extent of their probe was being dramatically extended. It will now also include sex crimes, and they made an unprecedented call for survivors and victims to come forward. Here's how the MSM announced the news.
So we start with the breaking news. Detectives investigating Andrew Mountbatten Windsor say they're examining a number of aspects of alleged misconduct in public office. The offence can potentially include sexual misconduct, abuse of position and corruption.
Thames Valley Police is understood to be assessing some specific reports that a woman was allegedly taken to an address in Windsor in 2010.
LBC understands that detectives are investigating Andrew Mountbatten Windsor for possible sex offences. A woman has claimed convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein sent her to Andrew's premises at the Royal Lodge in Windsor in 2010.
Detectives are waiting to interview a woman in the United States who claims she was taken to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's former home for sexual purposes in 2010.
Within minutes, The Sun's well-connected crime editor Mike Sullivan revealed the CPS may charge Andrew with misconduct in public office for standalone offences or both. And a source also told Sly News, people mistakenly think we are looking at finance-based crime, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Misconduct in public office covers many things, including sex offences, fraud, corruption, perverting the course of justice, and others. We have a much broader view. We are investigating all aspects, and we will go where the evidence leads us. Meanwhile, the Daily Telegraph reported that as part of its investigation, Thames Valley Police will review existing allegations of sexual misconduct. So the detectives investigating claims that Windsor passed sensitive information to Epstein, and we know that that included when he was a special representative for trade and investment, are now going much further. And they use the line sexual or inappropriate relationships, saying that is according to Crown Prosecution Service guidelines. They add that prosecutors must then prove that the alleged misconduct amounted to a willful abuse of power. Police are also understood to be considering investigating potential corruption and fraud crimes. Thames Valley Police is assessing one allegation that a woman was trafficked into Britain by Epstein in 2010 to have sex with Mr. Mountbatten Windsor at Royal Lodge in Windsor. So you can see this is a car crash. This is a total nightmare. And even though we may not be feeling the same shock as we did when the police actually turned up to Sandringham and arrested Andrew in February, actually, this announcement today has shaken the royal family to its core. Because remember, as Tom Sykes and Andrew Loney have just admitted, this was a decision to go further and to cooperate with the police by Prince William, not King Charles.
Could the monarchy be heading toward its biggest turning point in years? Fresh royal speculation is now swirling around Prince William, King Charles III, and the growing controversy surrounding Prince Andrew. because according to royal commentators, pressure inside the palace may be increasing faster than ever before. And some observers are now openly asking a once unthinkable question. Could Prince William soon be forced to step into an even bigger role than expected? Stay with us, because this story could have enormous implications for the future of the monarchy. Ever since King Charles became monarch following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, the royal family has faced a period of intense transition. A new king, a modernizing monarchy, growing public scrutiny, and constant pressure to maintain stability during a rapidly changing era. At the same time, the institution has faced repeated controversies involving multiple members of the family. From tensions surrounding Harry and Meghan, to ongoing questions surrounding Prince Andrew, the palace has found itself navigating one challenge after another. And according to many royal analysts, those pressures are beginning to accumulate. The latest wave of speculation centers around concerns regarding the long-term future of the monarchy and Prince William's increasingly prominent role within it. As heir to the throne, William has gradually become one of the institution's most important figures. His public profile has expanded dramatically. His responsibilities continue growing. And many royal watchers believe preparations for the future are already well underway behind palace walls.
Well, he does. But the big problem for the king, of course, is that the courts are his court. And as the reality of Andrew invoking his older brother in court becomes at least a closer possibility, it becomes harder to see how Charles can remain on the throne. Of course, in his TV address just last month, Charles insisted that he will not abdicate.
In this, I renew my own solemn pledge of duty and service to you all.
But will it really be his choice? Now, I want to be very clear. I believe in the constitutional monarchy. I believe our system will be significantly weakened if King Charles does have to leave his job. Because it's not a job, is it? It's an ordained role for life by God. He is head of the Church of England. So as yet, I have not called for that, and I do not call for that today. But if Andrew is charged and does not plead guilty, and why would he? Because then he'd be going to jail without any doubt. I think this situation is going to become historically difficult for Charles to navigate. And that's before you get to his failing health and his general unpopularity over his links to Islam, despite the fact he did a very good job in Washington, D.C. with President Trump during last month's state visit. Now, for a matter of history, I want to read to you now this entire unprecedented police statement, which we knew about yesterday, but was somewhat bizarrely embargoed by the police until 6 a.m. this morning. Here we go. Thames Valley Police is continuing an investigation into misconduct in public office. On the 19th of February 2026, a man in his 60s, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor from Norfolk, was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He was interviewed under caution and released under investigation on the same day. 2 addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk were searched. Following the arrest and search activity, we have been working with the United States Department of Justice to get further information that may be related to this investigation. That's big. We have also been working with the Crown Prosecution Service in the United Kingdom and have sought early investigative advice from them, as we would in serious, complex, or sensitive cases. The investigation is examining a number of aspects of alleged misconduct following the release of files under the Epstein Files Transparency Act in the United States. We are also speaking with a number of witnesses. However, as per national guidance, we cannot confirm or deny the identities of these individuals. Now, by the way, some of those individuals are believed to include the likes of former prime ministers. Thames Valley Police Assistant Chief Constable Oliver Wright went on the record in this statement to say, "Our misconduct in public office investigation is continuing. Misconduct in public office is a crime that can take different forms, making this a complex investigation. Our team of very experienced detectives are working meticulously through a significant amount of information that has come in from the public and other sources. We are committed to conducting a thorough investigation into all reasonable lines of inquiry, wherever they may lead. We encourage anyone with information to get in touch with us through the normal non-urgent contact channels, such as the Thames Valley Police online portal. I understand the high level of interest in this work, but please be patient as we continue to actively progress our investigation. We will provide further updates to the public and media when appropriate. We will continue to work with the National Police Chiefs Council and other police forces to coordinate the national policing response to the Epstein files. As part of this, Thames Valley Police is actively supporting national policing in contacting Epstein victims and survivors. And this is highly significant. We hope that anyone with relevant information will come forward whenever they are ready to engage with us. Our door is always open. Just think about this for one moment. This is the police directly calling on Epstein victims and survivors to come forward to help in their investigation, not overall, as was discussed before, but specifically in regards to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the King's brother. We're witnessing history here. Nothing like this has ever happened before. The statement went on. In addition to the investigation into misconduct in public office, the assessment of reports that a woman was taken to an address in Windsor in 2010 for sexual purposes is ongoing. We have engaged with the woman's legal representative to confirm that should she wish to report this to police, it will be taken seriously and handled with care, sensitivity, and respect for her privacy and her right for anonymity. We recognize how difficult it can be to speak about experiences of this nature, and any contact with police will be led by her wishes, when and if she feels ready and able to do so. Wow. So, let me bring in now, for analysis on this major breaking news story, the former head of Royal Security, Di Davies, who joins me alongside Connor Tomlinson. Di Davies, this is the sort of news that even just a few months ago felt impossible to believe. No one actually thought that the police, were really going to conduct the type of meaningful investigation into Andrew Mountbatten Windsor that would include these sexual allegations as well. Now confirmation that this probe has indeed widened, and the net seems to be tightening on Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Now, you have very much been behind these calls for a wider investigation. Do you feel today, Di, like the police are doing enough?
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Dan. I feel vindicated because going back 6 years ago, I went on Newsnight a day or two after Andrew, and I called then for the Metropolitan Police to investigate Andrew. And I said on that program and many others following, if there was evidence properly obtained, they should go and interview him. And if the evidence pointed to an offence, that should be under caution. Here we are 6 years on, and it's taken this length of time and the release of some of the Epstein files. And let's face it, a lot of it hasn't come out yet. But now, at long last, not the Met, but Thames Valley have included what I've been asking for, along with Andrew Lowney and one or two others, for the police simply to do their job and go where the evidence takes them. And again, that should be, he is not guilty until evidence shows otherwise. And I stress that, but by gum, there's so much evidence now, it's surely right, both in this country where victims are alleged to have been attacked by him, and attack is the word I would use. Then again, I would say, let's find the evidence. I hope the USA are providing further evidence. They were reluctant to do so because of a spat between our government. But let's face it, for years now, people have been asking the questions, and everyone in the establishment has said there's nothing to see here. This is like an octopus with tentacles. The tentacles have reached every level of the establishment, And a number, I hope, are quaking because they've aided and abetted him, I allege, if the allegations are true. So I'm delighted in a professional sense. I have no feelings for Andrew one way or the other, but professionally, over 56 years of investigation on this earth, I wanted investigated properly. And those, including prime ministers who have aided and abetted, those in the palace, and whether it's the king, his son, or Uncle Tom Cobley and all, if they have evidence and they can be seen to have aided and abetted Andrew and covered up, as many, many surely have, in terms of malfeasance in public office, then I hope to goodness, at long last, they're going to have their collars felt.
So, Di, there's a lot to pick up on there, but the first thing is how significant the cooperation is with the FBI, the US authorities. This statement seems to suggest that there is now cooperation. Was that your reading of it?
Well, yes, the commissioner went over a month or two. The commissioner of the Met went over asking for that. As I say, historically, there's been a failure of communication by us and again on their part because of a spat. The FBI, as you know, called for an investigation to take place here. They provided certain documentation, and the then Home Secretary declined because of this so-called spat. I don't know the details of that, but again, successive lawyers for Virginia Guthrie asked for inquiries to be made here. 4 times the Met said there's nothing to see here or we have no jurisdiction. I took exception with that under the Sexual Offences Act 2003 because I am told the 2015 Act didn't apply, which is a shame. No, but there's sufficient evidence, I say, from victims, both Virginia Guthrie, and sadly she's dead, but other victims, to allow the police to go ahead and question him. But the sexual side has been put to one side for some time. The malfeasance and the abuse of his position has been looked at and is being looked at in conjunction. So again, there's so much to unravel. There are so many people, as I keep saying, who've covered up for him. I hope now they can be done for aiding and abetting him.
So, Di, it is looking increasingly unlikely, isn't it, that, and of course, you know, we both believe in innocent until proven guilty. We both believe that there should be due process, but I think we both also believe there has been a monumental establishment cover-up going on for nearly 2 decades on this. So that's why there's had to be this pressure. But you know, Andrew Loney has said for a long time he thinks that the deep state will still work in mysterious ways to ensure that Andrew evades justice. Are you so sure of that now? Because I'm looking at this, and I know how these things work, Di, so do you. And this is now feeling much more like the police believe that this is almost certainly going to end up in court, that he will be charged. They are cooperating with the Crown Prosecution Service. Do you feel that same thing, that this is now heading towards a charge?
Well, I certainly feel at long last the Thames Valley Police, in conjunction with other forces who also are looking into trafficking offences, along with the National Crime Agency and along with the Council of Police Chiefs and Uncle Tom Cobley and all, they are now in a position where they have to be seen to do the job properly. No more hiding. The question is, how far will they take it and how many people will be dragged into it? That's crucial, in my opinion, because Andrew was just a figurehead being allowed by the establishment to abuse his position, I allege, to spend millions and millions of our money on his protection throughout this time and the spending. So there's a huge range of allegations. If it was you and I that were public servants, and let's discuss that. I say he was a public servant. I've just come back from lecturing on a high-end cruise where people, a lawyer was telling me, I was having dinner with him, you've got to prove he was a public servant. Well, that definition applies on common sense. It's what you and I, as reasonable people on the Clapham Omnibus, as used to be, under Lord Denning, what did we think was reasonable? Did we think it was reasonable for his activities of spending thousands and thousands on hotels, allegedly on prostitutes, I'm sure we paid for, and so on and so forth? So there is a huge range of activity which he should be investigating before we go to a breach of the Official Secrets Act. The question has to be, where was HMRC over this? Where was the Foreign and Commonwealth Office? Where were the permanent secretaries? I could go on. I think he should bring down the range of civil servants who must have known, and then we can move to the palace. They knew what was going on.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you, Di. This is what I wanted to ask.
Can I just say, every single private secretary to the Queen must have known. And somehow nobody did anything. So they need some answering.
So then we get to the King, Di. And the King has had a very good couple of months. I don't think anyone can deny that. The state visit to the US was a triumph. His cancer treatment has really worked. So even though the cancer is terminal, his ability to work and to function is so much better than it was. And there is hope, Di, that he could live for many years. But the abdication threat after the widening of this probe today has not gone away. Because how on earth can King Charles remain on the throne if Andrew is going to invoke his older brother in his potential defense? Do you think King Charles's role itself is under threat now?
Well, it's very interesting, as you well remember, and I know of a documentary I took part in about Burrell trial, when he was alleged to have spoken to the Queen over the safekeeping of property, which was absolute nonsense as far as I was concerned. Anyway, they stopped the case, and I argued they shouldn't have stopped the case. There was more than enough evidence, if the CPS and the police had done their job properly, to proceed, even though, and you couldn't call the Queen in the same way. Constitutionally, you can't call the King, and the only way you could possibly then do it is as happened in Spain. The King abdicated there. I'm not alleging our King has behaved like the King of Spain, but what I am saying, there are questions to ask of him, and the only way you can do it, presumably, is if he does abdicate. I can't see any other way, really. Or can't prosecute the King in his own court.
Unless there's a way to get... Sorry, Di, finish your point.
Yeah, the only way he arguably would give evidence or agrees to give evidence if he was no longer the King and his son was the King. But it's somewhere we've never been before. And the best thing...
Or if Prince Andrew ex-Prince Andrew agreed to plead guilty?
Yeah, that would be the only way that I see it. And what I also say, others could be prosecuted, a whole range of others, but they could invoke, well, the King knew, why are you doing me?
At the same time, renewed discussion surrounding Prince Andrew has once again brought uncomfortable attention to the monarchy. Even after stepping back from public royal duties, Andrew remains a controversial figure whose presence continues generating headlines. And according to critics, every renewed controversy risks creating additional pressure on the institution itself. For the palace, perception matters enormously. The monarchy survives not through political power, but through public confidence, public stability, public trust, which means ongoing controversies become far more than temporary headlines. They become institutional challenges. And that's why discussions involving Prince William are now attracting so much attention. Because many people increasingly see him as the figure most closely associated with the monarchy's future. Disciplined, carefully managed, and far more popular with younger audiences than many other senior royals. According to some royal commentators, that growing popularity has quietly transformed William into the monarchy's central stabilizing figure. But what truly pushed this story into overdrive was the growing speculation about what happens if palace pressure continues escalating. Royal experts have long argued that modern monarchies depend heavily on continuity and public reassurance. Any perception of instability immediately fuels media speculation. And once succession conversations begin dominating headlines, the pressure intensifies even further. Now, with renewed focus on Prince Andrew controversies and ongoing scrutiny surrounding the royal family more broadly, some commentators believe William is being positioned more visibly than ever before. Not necessarily because immediate change is expected, but because the institution always plans ahead. Far ahead. Supporters of the monarchy argue this is entirely normal. Preparing the heir for future leadership has always been part of royal tradition. Critics, however, see something deeper. A monarchy attempting to protect itself during one of the most turbulent periods in recent memory. What's fascinating about this moment is how dramatically William's public image has evolved. For years, he was viewed primarily as the quiet future heir. Reserved, cautious, often overshadowed by larger royal dramas. But today, many royal observers see him differently, as the monarchy's safest pair of hands. A figure associated with stability during uncertainty. And alongside Catherine, Princess of Wales, William increasingly represents the monarchy's long-term future. That perception matters enormously, because public confidence in future leadership often shapes confidence in the institution itself. Meanwhile, King Charles continues balancing enormous responsibility during a highly challenging period for the monarchy. Any suggestion of internal instability inevitably attracts intense media attention, especially when public conversations involve succession, palace tensions, and institutional controversy all at once. And that's why stories like this spread so quickly, because they combine three things audiences find irresistible: power, family tension, and uncertainty about the future. Yet despite all the speculation, one reality remains clear. The monarchy has survived crises before. Major crises, scandals, public backlash, political change, family conflict. And throughout history, the institution has relied heavily on one principle above all else: continuity, which is exactly why Prince William's growing role now attracts such enormous attention. Not because change is guaranteed, but because the future of the monarchy increasingly appears connected to him. And the real question now is Prince William simply carrying out the normal responsibilities of an heir to the throne? Or are current royal controversies accelerating a transition the palace never expected to face this soon? At its core, this story isn't really about one controversy. It's about the future of the monarchy, the future of royal leadership, and the immense pressure placed on a family constantly forced to balance tradition with modern public scrutiny. Because while headlines come and go, the survival of the institution depends on what happens next. If you enjoy royal news, palace drama, and deep analysis of the biggest stories surrounding the monarchy, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next royal development could change everything.